This session is about all of the Black women and men being killed by racism, either by the hands of police or our fellow white American citizens. Black people make up 12% of the U.S. population. Currently, the police killing rate is 52% whites and disproportionately 32% blacks. The police killing rate is 2.8 times higher among blacks than whites. Black victims are more likely to be unarmed at 14.8% than whites are at 9.4%. Let's discuss some recent victims. Ahmaud Arbery of Satellite Shores, Georgia, was murdered on February 23rd, shortly after 1 p.m. at the hands of 3 white terrorists. Mr. Arbery was shot 3 times with a shotgun after being blocked by 2 pickup trucks and 3 men, 2 of whom brandished shotguns while on a jog through a residential neighborhood 2 miles from his home. It took 2 months to get the perpetrators arrested. Breonna Taylor of Louisville, Kentucky, was murdered on March 13th at 12:48 a.m. at the hands of 3 police officers who broke into her apartment on a no-knock warrant that was erroneously issued. The actual target was over 10 miles from Miss Taylor's home. Taylor was shot over 8 times. No arrests or ramifications have resulted over this injustice. George Floyd of Minneapolis, Minnesota, was murdered on May 27th at the hands of 4 police officers who have currently not been charged for his murder. Well, just found out that one was just arrested. Floyd was arrested for non-violent offense and handcuffed when a police officer blocked his airway by pushing his knee and body weight directly on his neck for over 7 minutes. The police officer was unrelentless even after pleas from the victim and bystanders who protested vehemently with the officers about Mr. Floyd's mistreatment, abuse, and ultimate death right before their eyes. As brazen an act of murder in public among the citizens they serve, they were merely fired, not charged for this heinous crime, except for, just found out, breaking news, the one arrest. I would be remiss if I didn't mention Christian Cooper, who on May 25th was in potentially grave danger of experiencing the same murderous fate as a result of white female Amy Cooper's reckless and intentionally nefarious actions of placing a false police report stating in a hysterical crying voice that an African American man was threatening her and her dog in New York City's Central Park. Her police call couldn't have been further from the truth. In fact, Mr. Cooper was calm, whereas Miss Cooper was aggressive, yelling, and approaching Mr. Cooper as if even after he stated that he was uncomfortable with her getting closer to him. This could have been a potentially fatal encounter with the police, had the police taken her version of events or been racially motivated themselves. This is a lot. It is too much. And there is a mental, emotional, and spiritual toll for absorbing this amount of hatred, racism, and injustice. This is a reality for Black Americans. As a mind, body, spirit integrationist, I want to talk about what we are experiencing as people in Black bodies. Non-Black people pained by these atrocities are also affected. Instead of diminishing our humanity and engaging in toxic tribalism and toxic nationalism, my aim is to enlighten, refortify, and reground the spirit and the body so that we can all reclaim our proper dignified positions on this earth. We must all be empowered in order to be the change we wish to see. So let's get to acknowledging the truth, grounding out the hate, and organize the fire deep within us to heal ourselves, our communities, and the world. In short, to evolve. Happy healing, everyone. What is this about? Racism, tribalism, gender killings, and brutality all boils down to power and how we choose to define humanity and the hierarchy of humanity. As if we need to consciously decide what we consider to be humane, who we consider, what the pecking order of each type of human being is. Our current definition allows for atrocities against human beings based on race, gender, and a number of other identities. This power structure is systemic. The first chakra. On a physical level, this hurts. There are beings with bodies, and there are beings without bodies. We call the beings without bodies spirits, ghosts, etc. For us to exist on the physical plane, we must be a being with a body. Squashing one's existence due to their racial identity is an invalidation on the most basic level of humanity. And it is one of the reasons that keeps human beings at war with other human beings. This definition of humanity, this false power, and value structure is one that we continue to repeat along the spectrum of time. Victims of racist murders are not the only victims, because this kind of invalidation not only eliminates precious life, but also brands a trauma imprint on the tribe the victim belongs to. In addition, their families are victims. Their neighborhoods are victims. Their entire race is a victim, and their country is a victim. Because a crime against a citizen is a crime against society. But if society accepts this reality, if we shrug our shoulders and go about our daily lives, what does that say about this country's humanity? The truth is that we are all affected, whether we realize it or not. The first chakra is usually associated with survival. Survival is food, shelter, clothing, and the basic work needed to provide those things. But the first chakra is much more foundational than even survival. Existence is your right to be. Existence is much more basic than survival. It is your beingness. When someone kills you, they are saying you don't get to exist. The second quality of the first chakra is value. Even though society may give Black people little to no value, the truth is that all human beings have unsurpassable value embedded deep within us, within the first chakra. Life has value. Human life has value. Black lives have value. Reaffirm the 4 universal rights and truths that fall under the first chakra and the physical body. The right to physically exist with dignity, the right to safety, security, and protection, the right to be free and have autonomy, and the fact, the truth, that we each have a beautiful seed of unsurpassed value. This seed requires and deserves growth, love, and cultivation by ourselves, our communities, and society at large. We are all responsible for this cultivation. The second chakra. On an emotional level, we are angry, enraged, hurt, and pained at the idea that a person, an entire race, or even an entire country does not want us here simply because we have Black bodies. The emotional body is like a river. It should stay flowing at all times. However, when heavy emotions are generated, they have a tendency to harden and get stuck, weighing down the emotional body and affecting us on multiple levels. New traumas also have a tendency to reactivate and irritate previously experienced emotions and trauma that haven't been healed and fully cleared. Emotions have power. They can lead to action. Most often, our emotions are reactionary, but they are paradoxes in the sense that they are meant to be processed internally. Oftentimes, we don't want to do this work. We think we've already done enough by merely experiencing them. But having an experience and processing an experience are 2 very different things. And even after processing, we're still not done, because processing an experience and healing from an experience are still 2 very different things. Emotions can also lead us to some much needed self-healing. Emotions are a journey. They're not a destination. It's a 3-step process. Experiencing them, processing them, and then healing from them. The first step is to validate the anger, rage, and hurt. We do very little validation of emotions. We either run with an emotion or we suppress and repress an emotion. Let's start with validation. Validate your empathy with the victims, their family, their community. These are appropriate feelings in this situation. Validate your anger, your hurt, your rage. These are appropriate feelings in this situation. Additionally, feelings of powerlessness and the experience of intentional disempowerment is also normal. When tribal warfare is initiated, it is to inform or remind us that we do not have the agency, autonomy, or power over our own individual lives or as a collective. Validate your feelings of powerlessness. But please, please, quickly let that powerlessness move from your body down your grounding cord. We are not powerless. In fact, we're powerful. We have the ability to say no to systemic racism as individuals and as a society, to demand police reform, refortify your power. As Black people, we are vulnerable, yes, but we are still powerful. All non-Black people who know injustice when you see it, stand in your power as well. This is your fight too. All are needed to make the change we wish to see. This isn't a Black problem or a white problem. This is a human problem. And racism is just one of our human problems. Complacency is the enemy of all of us. Third chakra. On a mental level, we are trying to make sense of this, trying to figure out what we can do about this. Here's what not to do. Do not stay stuck at the toxic tribal level. Retaliation or revenge. This idea of it's their problem, quote unquote, not mine. Whether they means it's a Black problem, not a white one, or whether they means it's someone else's loved one, not my loved one. We also can't fall prey to the internalization of unworthiness at the first chakra level, or the powerlessness at the second chakra level. Instead, take an empowered position and seek justice on a social level to reinforce our bonds to ourselves, our own individual humanity, our communities, our citizenship, and most importantly, injustice to the human race. Action at the third chakra level is necessary, but it's hard to know what we can do on a practical level when these atrocities take place. And that's partly because we have really been sort of put in our place as regular people. We don't have the power that people of authority have. We don't have a power that people of money and means have. So here are just a few ideas that I brainstormed and researched and came up with that I myself am doing. Make calls to the Department of Justice and the FBI. Email your local politicians calling for police reform against their systemic racism. Make calls to local district attorneys. Tweet, "I am not okay," along with a video of the victim. Tweet hashtag "We Are Done Dying," which is an NAACP campaign. Develop your own plan for advocacy. It's unfortunate that organizations such as the NAACP does not have supportive forums, public forums in place for Black people, nor do they provide as much advocacy in general as we would like. I realize as a Black woman-owned business, I cannot sit idly by while this continues to take place and fester in our society, in my community. And so I am providing these chakra deep dives free on YouTube as a public service. We cannot sit in this energy without a practical plan of healing and action. Sitting in a cesspool of hurt, anger, and frustration is a recipe for individual and collective disaster. Perhaps we need to create another organization if existing ones won't or can't answer the call. I mean, where's Lady Mormont when you need her? Sorry, Game of Thrones reference. Perhaps requiring our governmental agencies and institutions to do their job and engage in real reform is the next step. Unfortunately, I believe that we might need to limit government and municipalities because they have already proven to us that, elected or not, they do not have the public's interest in mind with their policies. Perhaps we need to divest in their jobs by reducing their salaries to minimum wage and removing their medical benefits and pensions. Maybe then they will walk away and join their corporate backer payrolls instead and leave the real work to real, regular people. And perhaps I'm wrong. I'm happy to be wrong. Please put your suggestions in the comment section below, and I will happily follow up on this topic with another video compiling all of the suggestions. This is such an important topic that it shouldn't stop with just this video, just my ideas. I think now is a good time to stop, but stay tuned for part 2, where I will go in more depth on the third chakra rights that are damaged by experiencing and tolerating systemic racism, as well as how we experience racism on a fourth chakra and on the spiritual level. The stages of grief will be discussed in some detail. I hope you found the topics and tools outlined in this video to be helpful. This is a marathon, not a sprint. Let's take a collective deep breath. And let's reground ourselves to the center of the earth. We can honor these victims and the many before them. Our public agencies and institutions aren't doing the right thing. But this just may mean that we need to go grassroots with it. If every neighborhood, every community made a pledge that systemic racism would no longer be tolerated, this problem would be eradicated tomorrow. We as a species can do this. For every Hitler, there is a Gandhi. We can't let hate win. We must choose to believe. We must choose to act, to do something. You might be laughing about my whole let's have a dialogue in the comments section, but active brainstorming with others in a respectful manner and in the spirit of finding a solution is healing. It's practical, and it's more than hopeful. It's moving in the right direction. We are not standing still while staring evil in the eye. We need useful outlets. A public forum is one of them. We must allow this experience to move upward within the mind-body-spirit system. Not down in the muck with the pain. Don't just release it and let it dissipate in the air. You know, anger, when expressed in a reactionary way, it's poof, it's gone. We can capture it, we can cultivate it, and we can make it into real change. I look forward to joining you all in the chat. Disrespectful comments won't be tolerated. You will be blocked immediately. Ideas, organizations that you believe work, how your community is combating systemic racism, politicians and public figures you consider allies in the fight against injustice and systemic racism, organizations that have yet to be created that could fill the gap, good books to read on the subject. All of these and more are welcome. Let's do this. Be safe out there. I want to leave you with this video, as well as a couple of links to videos by Charity Croft and Trey Crowder. Take care.
Everyone is here. I'm not okay. I'm not okay today. I want to give everybody permission to say they are not okay. And I want to give the black community permission to say you're not okay. I woke up today with, what the fuck? I am tired. I'm tired. I have yet to watch the video of Ahmaud Arbery. It's too much. I have not watched the video of George Floyd. It's too much. For those who think falsely calling 911 on a black person have other fish to fry. Talk to George's family. Talk to Tamir Rice's family. Breonna Taylor, Eric Garner. Talk to their families and say if you have other fish to fry. Black people in general have to go to work the next day and pretend like they are all right. Black women in particular cannot say anything or they're viewed as angry black women. So not only do people get to piss on the community can't even say it's pissed. 31 years ago, not too far away, there was a horrific rape of a woman. And instead of going out to find the perpetrator who did that horror, they found any black man that they could and falsely accused them. Someone took out a full-page ad 31 years ago and said that those black men should be executed. That man is the president of the United States of America today. I am not okay today. That woman was so comfortable in her privilege that even being recorded, she felt like nothing would happen. And I saw as her false anger escalated toward the end, when she realized she had to put more emphasis on an African-American person attacking her to get the response that she needed. I am not okay today. I really am not. We are trying to deal with tens of thousands of people dying from COVID, disproportionately in the black and brown community. There is no bigger fish to fry than the institution of racism and bigotry that is pervasive in every damn institution across this city, state, and this country, period. And to have the NYPD continually sit up there and say they don't have any discriminatory institution that they deal with, that nothing about them has to do with discrimination or racism. To then say we have bigger fish to fry, how dare you? How dare you? People are dying.